Good evening. How are we doing this evening? Glad to see some faces on here already. You know what to do. Share it on your page because we are going to drop some gems on you this evening. We're going to be talking about, you know, we're going to get a little uncomfortable this evening. A little bit uncomfortable. People don't like to get uncomfortable and talk about stuff, but we're going to get uncomfortable on Coach Phee's philosophy of self-care this evening. So make sure you share this post on your page so that people can let me know if you can hear me good. Let me know if you can hear me good, if it is running slow. That way I know what's going on. Sometimes it doesn't like to play friendly. So I want to make sure that you guys can hear me. I'm excited to be back. Last week was a Mother's Day week. I did not do a live because I wanted to make sure that I was giving time to others as well as myself as being a mom. Can you hear me? Let's see. Let me know if you can hear me good. You can hear, I can hear you well. Okay. Because I just want to make sure that all is well. And so I'm going to give it one more minute and then we are going to start. But if you have not been on a live with me before, if you have not been on one of my videos with me before, make sure that you share this on your page so that way everyone in your circle gets the nuggets that I share. Also, make sure that you have pen and paper because I do give out nuggets and some good information that you might want to refer back to. And if you are watching this on replay, if you didn't get a chance to catch this live and you are watching this on replay, put replay in the comments. That way I know that you have gotten your nuggets. So I just wanted to, I want to make sure that everyone hears. And, you know, with Coach Phee's self-care, it's all about making sure that you are getting the healing and the steps that you need to be able to heal yourself. And if you have any questions that you want to ask me on the side, just shoot me a message. And we can talk about it separately because I know sometimes people don't like to make comments or ask questions in the comments because they may feel like maybe their question is personal, and we want to respect your privacy with that. So let's just so I want you to be comfortable so that you can also, so make sure you share this on your page, share this with your friends, share this in your groups. We are going to dive into money mindset this evening. And so I am going to go ahead and get started because you know I value your time and I value mine. So I want to make sure that that is happening. And so good evening, good evening, good evening, everybody. Come on in, Tag somebody, share the live, and let's have a real conversation this evening, because tonight we are going to be talking about money mindset. Money mindset. And not just money, but mindset, survival, scarcity, healing, prosperity, because people are working hard every single day and still mentally trapped in survival mode. And tonight we are going to go deeper into that. Before we get started, I always like to take a moment and spotlight authors, maybe creators, and people who are using their gifts intentionally, because growth doesn't only happen through conversations. It also happens through stories and healing and wisdom, and people being courageous enough to share their journey, right? So tonight's featured author is Candace Melissa. I know her personally, and her book is called Your Time Is Now, and it is available on Amazon. I did post a link in the comments, and sometimes all it takes is one message, one chapter, one moment to remind somebody that their life can shift, right? So definitely support and check out her book. We want to make sure that we are supporting each other, because, like I always say, what I do is bigger than me, and this is my way of giving back to our local community, our local authors, maybe even expand your audience from where your current audience is, because I may have some friends that you don't, and you may have some friends that I don't. So, one of the things that we can do as business owners to support each other is that is free, is to share our information. And that is networking. That is the first step in networking, is sharing each other's information. So we want to make sure that we do that. So, and speaking of shifting, tonight I want to challenge the way we think about money, because many of us were taught survival but never taught stewardship. We were taught to struggle but not how to build. And let me say this before we even start: being broke is not your identity, struggling is not your purpose, and money is not evil. Okay? Money is a tool. And tools in healed hands look different than tools in wounded hands. So I know what it feels like to carry responsibility, to try, you know, to be trying to provide, trying to survive, right? Trying to help family, trying to be strong, and trying to build, and still feel financially heavy, right? And what I realized was a lot of us are not just financially exhausted, we are mentally exhausted, because survival mode affects your nervous system. You stop thinking about what the future looks like because you're so focused on making it through today. And eventually survival becomes your identity. But hear me, you can survive a season without making survival your personality. And I'm not speaking to you from someone that has not had this mindset. I'm speaking to you from my own personal experiences. and wondering day by day how I was going to survive. And what I understood was those moments taught me how strong I could be, but I did not have to stay in survival mode. And and teaching myself and learning things didn't just come from the experience. It came from wanting to be in a better place mentally, physically, financially, and spiritually around money. See, money just isn't, and I had to learn that that just isn't my paycheck. I had to make sure that I was using that as a tool and not as my crutch. Because we get into the role of, I was in the role of, I can't do this because I don't have this, I can't do this because I don't have that, and it became a cycle of trying to make more money. And it doesn't matter how much money you make if you are not healed around what that looks like for you, and knowing that it is a tool, then you will stay in that continuous cycle of, I need to make more, I need to make more, I need to make more, 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 more. But if you don't use it properly, you will never see financial freedom. And financial freedom just isn't about having more money. Because if you don't know what to do with it, then you'll never be financially free. And financially free, again, just isn't about money. It's all things attached to that: mentally, physically, financially, spiritually. You will continuously stay in that cycle of um, either I can't do something, or I don't have enough, or I can't, and you'll stay in the fight or flight mode, right? So survival mode trains your mind to expect lack. So you'll continuously stay in survival mode because survival mode will train you to expect lack. It train you to say, when you've struggled financially for a long time, your brain expects to struggle. Let me say that again. When you've struggled financially for a long time, your brain starts expecting struggle. So even when opportunities come, you still think from fear. What if I lose it? What if it doesn't work? What if something bad happens? And fear makes people overspend, hoard, undercharge, stay stuck, avoid risk, and then settle. You find yourself overspending, right? You find yourself hoarding, holding on to stuff, buying so much of it. Oh, I'm gonna hold on to it. You undercharge for whatever your product is because you're afraid that people won't buy your product at the price point that it should be. You stay stuck in that routine. You avoid taking risks to make yourself put yourself in a better situation, and then you just settle for whatever is given to you. Does that sound familiar? Some people aren't broke because they don't work hard. They're broke because survival mode has trained them to only think short term. And short term thinking keeps people trapped. And so when your nervous system is constantly stressed, you stop making intentional decisions. You react instead of build. So this is what I want you to do. Every morning, I want you to ask, what would the healed version of me do financially today? I want you to start planning beyond this paycheck. And then I want you to create a peace budget, not just a bill budget. Your peace budget is going to include rest, savings, emergencies, joy, growth. And then I want you to practice slowing down before financial decisions. Okay? So, your tools I want you to start doing every morning are, I want you to ask yourself this question: what would the healed version of me do financially today? Start planning beyond this paycheck. And start a peace budget, not just a bill budget. And what's included in that peace budget? You are going to include rest. You are going to include savings. You are going to include emergencies. You are going to include joy and growth. Okay? And then you're going to practice slowing down before financial decisions. Is this resonating with you guys? Because I know that I can't be the only person that was that felt like I was always running in a circle, unhealed financially. And so, emotional spending is also one of the things, and it's also comes from is often from unhealed pain. So some people spend money trying to feel better emotionally. And let's be honest, sometimes shopping feels like relief, right? It gives dopamine, it gives a temporary control, it gives comfort, but eventually the emotions fade and the bills remain. Some people are not addicted to spending, they are addicted to escaping how they feel. And if nobody taught you emotional regulations, money becomes your therapy. Okay? So before buying anything, is this a need or a want or an emotional purchase? You go into the stores and the stores trick you, right? They have stuff on the end caps, and they have stuff that they got all the lights and stuff around it, make it look all pretty, and you're like, "Oh, I need that. Oh, I want that." Did you make a list? So, or is that the you went to the store when you were going through something emotionally? Like, and then you say, "I'm going to the store because I just need to feel better. I need to go shopping." And then it becomes money, spending money becomes your therapy. But at the end of that therapy is the bill. So before you buy anything, ask yourself the question: is this a need? Is this a want? Or is this an emotional purchase? And then you're going to keep a money journal and write it down: what you spent, how much, why you bought it, what emotion were you feeling. And this is not to judge yourself, because again, that's not what we're doing. We are being curious, because curiosity heals the shame. You cannot change the patterns you refuse to notice. So I also want you to wait 24 hours before non-essential purchases. Because within that 24 hours, you'll probably wake up the next morning and be like, I don't need that. And then you don't have to be curious about the purchase because you waited, right? And then you don't have to say, well, I now don't have the money. Because sometimes, even if you take it back, you don't get the full price. Especially if it's on something major like electronics or something, and then they charge you a restocking fee. So now you're still out of some money, right? I also want you to find your emotional outlets like prayer, journaling, walking, music, resting, calling a trusted friend. Like call your girlfriend and be like, yo, I think I'm gonna buy this thing. And they're gonna be like, what do you need it for? If they're your friend, they're gonna question, what do you need that for? And they're gonna make you think about that purchase. Do you really need that? Right? And so the other thing is when you think about the things that you buy, do I already have this? Because what do? We buy stuff and then we put it up. We put it up, right? And when we put it up, we forget that we have it because we put it somewhere. And now we don't remember where we put it. So we go out and we purchase it again. So that is another reason why you want to wait 24 hours before you purchase something, because you might say, oh, I think I have that. It might jog something in your memory to say, oh, I remember I had that already. Okay? So the other thing is, there's the next point that I want to make is point number 3 is people were never taught financial literacy. So let's stop shaming people for what nobody taught them. Some people know how to survive, but were never taught budgeting. They were never taught investing. They were never taught credit. They were never taught taxes. They were never taught savings. They were never taught ownership. So they grow up feeling intimidated by money. Think about that. You know, we all talk about financial freedom and all the things, but do we know about the intimate parts of financial literacy? And don't make people feel bad about not knowing about it when they ask the questions, because some people may not understand, some people may not were taught. I mean, there are things that we weren't taught when we were younger that we learn now. So the saying is, when you know better, you do better. But you have to know or feel comfortable enough to be able to say, I don't know, and not feel ashamed for not knowing. We all, social media and all the things, and the facade that people put on will make people think that some folks have it all together when they really don't. I remember a couple of years ago when a friend of mine was telling me about this particular job, and I'm not going to put the job or the friend's name out there, but they were telling me about this one particular job, right? And everybody, is working this job and they're doing well and all the things, right? But what I understood about this particular job is these people were working all the time and they had no quality of life, but they had a lot of stuff, and they had a lot of expensive stuff. And to the point where they couldn't afford to miss a day of work, or they couldn't take off because they had payments to pay. So they were job poor. And when I say job poor, they may have been making um, a lot of money, but they had a lot of stuff, so they didn't have any leftovers to be able to breathe, feel comfortable, enjoy life, rest, right? So it is important that we learn about financial literacy. And so when people feel ashamed, they avoid looking at their finances. So they avoid looking at their accounts, they avoid looking at budgeting, they avoid learning. But avoidance keeps people trapped. You cannot heal what you refuse to face. You cannot heal what you refuse to face. So, along with the things that I've given you previously, I want you to learn one financial concept a week. Learn one financial concept a week. And follow financial educators who teach and not just flex wealth. You got to learn from people who are going to teach you how to be financially healthy and not just flex the wealth that they have. Not just tell you about, oh, I did this and I got that, but actually teach you how to be financially healthy. And then schedule a weekly money meeting with yourself. Schedule a weekly money meeting with yourself, and you're going to sit down and you're going to look at your spending. You're going to look at your debt. You're going to look at your savings. You're going to look at your habits. You're going to look at your goals. And I want you to do this without judging yourself, without self-hatred. Because again, be curious and not judgmental. When you start getting comfortable with sitting down with yourself and looking at your spending, right? And get you a pack of pretty highlighters and highlight your spending. Highlight what your debt is. Highlight what your savings is and your habits and your goals. And then start seeing where most of your money is going to, and then start being curious about how you can shift that into one of your goals. If it's something that you probably say, I was angry when I bought that purchase. So maybe when I'm angry now, maybe I'll just go for a walk instead of going to the grocery store or to the shopping center. Right? So sitting down and having a money meeting with yourself also gets you in the mode of being comfortable to talk about your finances and not be ashamed of your finances, right? And be curious about why you spend and answer those questions. Talk to yourself about it. Be like, why did I buy this? Did I really need this? And then what you'll do is you'll set that tone of getting into the habit weekly and talking about your finances with yourself. Okay? Point number 4, struggling has been glorified for so many of us. We are not trying to struggle. A lot of people unconsciously believe struggle makes them valuable. So they overwork, they overgive, they never rest. And then they feel guilty for slowing down because they think exhaustion equals worthiness. Let me tell you, exhaustion will wear your body down and you won't be able to take care of you, your family, or anybody else. And I'm going to give you an example. I'm going to give you a personal example. So one day and this was many years ago, Zion was young, but I was feeling like I was on the go. And I mean on the go. I was working a full-time job. I was a full-time mom. I was going to school full-time. I was starting to brand Coach Phee. Um, I was like, I, and I was diving into some network marketing stuff. I was helping this person, helping that person. And one day I sat down on the couch and I wasn't feeling real good. And I just thought, maybe I just needed to sleep or something. And then I woke up the next day and I still wasn't feeling good. And so I went to the doctors and, she started asking me questions. And I was like, well, I don't feel good. And I can't breathe. Like it's a little heavy on me. And so she started doing these different tests, and come find out, I had walking pneumonia. I was doing too much. And I was doing too much because I was trying to make sure that I could be financially free. And I thought more was more. And I thought that if I did more, that it was going to help me in the long run. And it didn't. It made me sick. So what happens when you have pneumonia? You got to sit your tail down. And so I sat down and I started reevaluating stuff, right? And what I did after that was I took 75 days and I started pouring into me. And it was around the summertime, so my son was able to go on the truck with my parents, and probably for about a month. So he was gone for about a month, but it gave me a jump start on being able to pour into myself, hence which birthed my 75-day reset self-care journal. And I was able to pour it back into myself. I was able to start healing myself and able to start showing up for myself mentally, physically, financially, and spiritually. And it was all based around that. So um, that's when I started learning the different things that were going to start healing me uh, for everything, right? And so some of us watched our parents struggle so hard that peace almost felt wrong. So you feel lazy if you rest. And I didn't want to feel lazy. I didn't want to have to, I also didn't want to have to ask anybody for anything. Because when you start asking people for help, it's all, most of the time, people with some people it was quid pro quo. Well, if I do this for you, then you have to do this for me. Well, it was pointless for me to ask that because it wasn't about pride. It was about the fact that I just didn't want to ask, because I don't want to have to owe somebody something, right, when I'm already doing so much. So that 75-day reset allowed me to heal in some areas that I needed to heal in, right? And to understand where I needed to shift my mindset so that I could start placing the priorities where they needed to be placed. And then financially, I started being able to learn some things that I did not know. And to no fault of anyone else's, I just didn't know it, right? It wasn't taught, and probably wasn't taught because it wasn't known to them, to whomever, to teach me. So now it's my job to teach myself how to do better, right? And so I had to schedule rest intentionally. I had to stop saying I'm broke. I had to replace it with I'm building, I'm learning, I'm becoming financially healthier, and stop acting like my value to stop attaching, I had to stop attaching my value to productivity, to how much I was doing, right? And I had to learn boundaries. Overgiving can create financial instability, okay? And so the next thing I want to touch on is Your environment affects your financial thinking. So some people are trying to grow financially while surrounded by people addicted to survival. Mm, yeah, e- environment matters. If everybody around you overspends, avoids accountability, normalizes chaos, fears growth, mocks discipline, it becomes harder to evolve. Sometimes the hardest part about growth is becoming unfamiliar to people who only knew survival version of you. And some people will call you different, and simply because you stopped operating recklessly. So now you have to audit your environment. Who influences my financial habits? Disciplined people, growth minded people, peaceful people. And I want you to start normalizing saying, that's not in my budget right now. When I started normalizing saying that, like saying it without shame, that's not in my budget right now. It made some people close to me uncomfortable because they were like, what you mean? You're not going to try and make it work? No, it's not in my budget. And I'm not going to stress myself out trying to make it in my budget. It's not there. It's not in my budget. And we start saying no or not in my budget without shame, you'll really feel the weight lifting off of you. Understand this. My next point is your words program your mind. Your words program your mind. Some people curse themselves daily. I'm always broke. Money leaves me fast. I'll never get ahead. And eventually your mind starts get agreeing with your struggle. Your nervous system listens to your mouth, and if you speak it, if all you speak is defeat, you subconsciously create behaviors that match defeat. Speak differently. Instead of I'm broke, say I'm rebuilding. I'm becoming disciplined. I'm learning stewardship. And so with your journaling, write down 3 financial wins daily. Even the small wins. Didn't overspend. Cooked at home. You saved $10. You paid a bill on time. Small wins build your confidence. You continuously do that, the bigger your confidence. And then you'll get some swag about saying, nah, that's not in my budget. And you'll start putting things in your budget and building budgets around things that you want to do and not what others expect you to do. Uh-huh. True prosperity is wholeness. And so I want to free somebody tonight. Having money is not the same thing as being prosperous. Because I've seen wealthy people with no peace. They can buy luxury, but they can't buy healing. They can buy attention, but they can't buy love. And some of y'all don't actually want money. You want relief. You want breathing room. You want safety. You want peace. And that is why healing matters. Because when you heal, you stop chasing money from desperation and start building from wisdom. So you have to define what prosperity truly means to you. And build your emotional health, build discipline, build peace, build your financial literacy, build healthy habits, and focus on sustainable growth. Not fast money, not comparison, not proving yourself. Because that's what we tend to do. We tend to compare ourselves. We tend to feel like we got to prove ourselves. Money is a tool. And I need you to hear me tonight. You are not behind. You are not failing. You are not less than because you're rebuilding. Money is a tool. And tools become powerful in healed hands. Stop operating in fear. Stop operating from shame. Stop operating from survival mode and start building intentionally. Because prosperity starts in your mind first. Okay? And don't say that Coach Phee didn't tell you. And I hope that giving you these nuggets of how you can heal financially and be prosperous in your mind will help you grow in other places. That is always the goal, because the goal is to do things that are bigger than me. So I hope that you have gotten something from this live this evening. If you did not get a chance to watch the live, go back and watch it and make sure you comment replay. It's important, like, for us to have a healthy mentality around money and using money as a tool. And so I hope that this has given you just maybe even a stepping stone to start thinking about some of the things that we talked about with being financially free. It does mean you have to, wealthy people, you don't have to have a lot of money, but you want to feel less stress around finances. And so I hope that I have given you some pointers this evening. I think I've given you about 6 or 7 of pointers this evening to teach you how to get out of survival mode. Get out of survival mode when you're talking about finances. Okay? You are not, your story is not I'm broke. Your story is not I'm just surviving. That's not your story. I want you to change the way you think, change the way you speak about your finances. Emotional spending is often from unhealed pain. So I want you to dive into, and be curious about that type of spending, right? And wait 24 hours before you buy something that is not needed. And ask yourself when you're at the store, is this a need or a want, right? And so if you missed the other points that I haven't gone over just now, go back and watch my live, share it on your page so you'll remember to watch it on your live. And I hope that you have gained something from this. And thank you for joining again on Coach Phee's uh, philosophy of self-care. And this evening was money mindset. Coach Phee's out.